I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You failed. And it was awesome. Exceptional. From failing, you learn. From success, not so much. This quote was from the animated film Meet the Robinsons, which I absolutely love. Folks, how do you respond to failure? Do you embrace it or do you avoid it? There's another quote I want to share. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. This quote was by Napoleon Hill. Folks, how do you respond when you encounter failure in your business, career, or life? In today's episode, I'm going to share how changing your perspective on failure can help change how you respond to it. It's not failure, it's just feedback. Want to learn how? Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 74 of the Boom Vision Podcast. As I was thinking about what to share for today's episode, there were several topics that I was thinking about, but honestly, I wasn't feeling it. So what did I do? I prayed. I set the intention to download what message that would best serve this Boom Vision community. And for the following hour, I got some beautiful downloads. And so for today's topic, it centers around the word failure, or specifically, our personal association with the word failure. There's a quote I want to share. There is no failure, only feedback. This quote was by Robert Allen. So there's a personal story I want to share. Back in elementary school, my mom signed me up to this programming class at a local boys and girls club. And what I loved about this place is that after I take the class, they had this community room that had like a pool table, a ping pong table, and a bunch of like arcade machines, right? Like if you think about the old Pac-Mans, Donkey Kong Jr., Galaxy, it was like those old school games. And I remember this one day after class, I was asking my mom, hey, do you mind if we just play a couple of video games? So she gave me a few quarters to play. Back then, one game was like 25 cents. And so I remember I was playing this one game, Donkey Kong Jr. And as I was playing the game, there was this little boy that came up next to me, watching me play. But he did something very unusual. He bumped my left side of my body twice. At first I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Then he went around me, and then he bumped the right side of my body twice, like using his hip. And as he did that, I was like, hey, excuse me, do you mind I'm playing here, right? And after he did that, then he left. And as I finished that game, because I promised my mom that was the last game I'll play, my mom was standing behind me and observing all this happening from a distance. She was like maybe, like 5 feet away from me. And so after the game was over, I went with my mom to the car. She pulled out of the parking lot and started driving home. And as she pulled out of the parking lot, she asked me a question. She was like, hey, Benny, do you notice anything missing? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, just check your pockets. Like, do you feel or see anything missing? And as I was putting my hands in my pocket, I was like, I remember my mom gave me 4 quarters. I was playing 3 games. That last game in Donkey Kong Jr. was the 3rd quarter. I should have had 1 quarter left. But that last quarter is missing. And so I told my mom, like, I think I'm missing a quarter. And so my mom, I remember she was looking up in the mirror and just, because I was sitting in the back seat, and she was like, do you know when you were playing, do you remember this kid was bumping next to you? I was like, yeah, that was so weird. I don't know what he was doing. He's like, well, that kid actually stole your quarter. I saw that happening. I was like, oh. And immediately I was just feeling, wow, I felt vulnerable. I felt ashamed. I was like, man, this feeling sucks. It sucks to have something stolen from you. But my mom just paused and allowed me to feel that. It's like, and then they asked me like, well, how do you feel about that? And I was like, well, it feels horrible. I don't like this feeling. And she's like, okay, well, what would you do differently if you don't like this feeling? And as I sat with it, I was like, wow, I need to be more aware of my surrounding. And literally from that experience, I remember I grew and created this habit of always patting my pockets, making sure, do I have my keys, do I have my wallet, do I have my phone, whatever it is. Like I always became more hyper aware of my surrounding because of the lessons I learned from that experience. And the takeaway I want to just share from this experience is that when I think about my mom in that moment, man, she had such grace, wisdom, and patience in giving me the space to feel and reflect what happened. She didn't react. She didn't say, hey, don't steal that from my son. She didn't react when the situation was unfolding. I wasn't really in the path of great harm, but she allowed herself to use this as an opportunity to teach me something in such a graceful way. Yes, I did feel the feelings of being vulnerable and ashamed, but she didn't amplify it. She wasn't pointing at me saying, hey, don't do this, or you did something wrong. She didn't say that. She didn't give me that sense. She gave me the space to allow me to feel and reflect. And why I'm sharing this experience with you, why I'm sharing this personal story with you is because sometimes we might go through experiences where we might feel like it's a failure, it's a setback. What did Robert Allen say? Look, it's not failure, it's feedback. You're just receiving feedback. And whether the feedback is positive, neutral, or negative, it's how you're going to interpret that experience and what you can learn from it. And so a question I want you to ask yourself is, in the similar vein of how my mom gave me the grace without judgment to help me to feel and reflect when I encounter something, an experience that made me feel not good. Do you give yourself the similar grace and space when you encounter a failure in your life? Do you allow yourself to pause and reflect so that you can learn? And so in reflection, this childhood experience helped me learn this framework that I'm calling repeat. R-E-P-E-A-T, repeat. So what do I mean by that? Using the same letters but rearranging it. It's 3 simple steps. It's pause, it's reflect, and it's teach. Pause, P-A. When something happens, when you have a moment of safety, just pause to take a deep breath, either to calm your mind, to meditate. Create stillness in your inner well. When you create that stillness and calmness, you can see your own reflection when the water is still. You're not going to be able to see your reflection when the water is turbulent. It needs to be still and calm. So simply just pause. And once you have a moment to pause, reflect, R-E. Reflect on the situation experience. How did it make you feel? Feel through it, acknowledge it. Don't override the feeling, but just allow yourself to reflect on the experience and feel through it. And then teach, T-E. What is the experience this is trying to teach you? What is this feedback sharing with you? As Napoleon Hill said earlier of the quote that I shared, what is the seed of equal or great benefit that this experience is teaching you? So when you're able to use this repeat framework, pause, reflect, and teach, you're going to be able to reframe your experiences when you encounter failure. So another way to say it is, when you're experiencing failure or feedback in your life, you may feel or say, man, feels like it's a setback. Now, that's true if you truly feel it that way, unless you can see it in a different perspective. And so what I like to say is, it's not a setback. It's a set up. I'm going to repeat that again. It's not a setback. It's a set up. If you respond to failure with a negative feedback, you're probably going to see and feel what you experience as a setback. But if you respond to the experience that it's just feedback, it's not failure, but it's feedback. If you have a negative association with it for failure, let's reframe it. If you respond to experience as a feedback, if I'm able to pause, reflect, and learn what is it trying to teach me, you're allowing yourself the space for this experience to set you up. It's setting you up for a springboard for you to either spring forward or redirect to a new direction. Would you rather have a setback, or would you rather have it set you up for a greater success? The choice is yours. So with that said, what are this week's action steps to help you reframe failures and setbacks in your life as feedback and setups? When you use the CAL method, C-A-L, C, calm yourself. Calm yourself in whatever way that works for you. Is it breathing? Is it breath work? Is it meditation, yoga, running? Whatever way to calm your mind. The second step is A, awareness. Bring awareness to your body, to your state of mind. Allow yourself to go within. What are you feeling at that present moment when you experience or reflect on that, what you just went through? L stands for language. I want you to ask 3 questions. As you reflect on this feedback, right? This failure or setback that you've experienced, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. What do I need to feel? That's the first question. What do I need to feel from this experience? Second question, what do I need to heal? If I'm feeling less than neutral feelings, if it's negative feelings, do I need to heal from this? What do I need to heal? But to get there, you have to understand, what do I need to feel from this rather than burying it? So the first one is, what do I need to feel? The second one is, what do I need to heal? The third question I want you to ask yourself is, what do I need to be real? How can you be real about this? How can you be honest about what this experience is trying to teach you? How do I feel it? How do I heal it? How do I be real about it? If you can be honest with yourself and allow yourself to ask these questions, you're really going deeper to try to understand what is the seed of wisdom, this gift of this failure you are experiencing in life. So final thoughts for today's episode. There's a quote I want to share. Failure happens all the time. It happens every day in practice. What makes you better is how you react to it. This quote was by Mia Hamm. I hope today's episode inspires you to think different. It inspires you to ask different questions. It allows you to pause, to reflect, and to teach. And to do that, to allow yourself to transform what you're experiencing as a setup rather than a setback. Do you allow yourself to feel it, to heal it, and to be real about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a DM on Instagram at Benjamin Ye. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you, share it with someone you feel can really benefit from this message. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself. Be in delight. Be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminye.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.